clicked on this video, you've probably had the S24 Ultra in your hands for a few months or so, and it's a weird thing, but I often like to watch reviews on products I've bought to get a deeper appreciation and also to confirm my decision. Call it a confirmation bias, but I think the S24 Ultra deserves it. The S24 Ultra is a beauty and a beast. It's able to go head-to-head against the best in 12 rounds and carry its weight in gold. It's shown a few quirks, and it's clearly better than Apple in some ways, but also falls short in others. I went against my decision to return the unit and spent the month with the S24 Ultra, and as someone who is new to the Android and Galaxy lineup, here are my observations living with the S24 Ultra. Let's dive right in. First, the S24 Ultra's screen is hands down a clear winner over the iPhone. Full disclosure, I own the 14 Pro Max, but the screen is exactly the same on the 15 Pro Max with the same 460 ppi versus the 510 ppi on Samsung's screen. Now, the S24 Ultra screen is downright easier to look at. And I don't mean that you can see the difference in the quality, but for some odd reason, looking at my iPhone for an extended period of time fatigues my eyes, while the S24 Ultra lands easier on my eyes. Unfortunately, it's not something I can share with you empirically, but more experientially. The clarity, the saturation, the blacks, it all feels like I'm looking at a printed piece of paper when looking at Samsung's screen, making it easier and more pleasing to look at longer. And it's definitely a welcomed upgrade over my iPhone. I also have the Tab S9 Ultra, and I feel the same exact thing when comparing it to my 12.9-inch iPad Pro or even my 16-inch MacBook Pro. The screens just fatigue my eyes a lot faster than Samsung screens. The S24 Ultra takes the crown and is the de facto king in my opinion when it comes to screen quality for premium phones and products. You know when you have to learn a new route to get to a certain destination? It feels a bit jarring at first and you have to commit to learning to unfamiliar settings. But after a while, you don't think twice about it and can basically get to that place with your eyes closed. Getting the S24 Ultra kind of felt like that. Coming from Apple with their Face ID and Samsung's Face ID is clearly in second place. I just leave it on but don't rely on that alone. However, what I found was that after some time, what became the most useful and intuitive was the fingerprint reader. After a month or so, even with the screen off, I intuitively knew where to place my thumb. The thumb reader isn't perfect, but applying the perfect pressure in the right location gives a pretty high unlock rate. Luckily, there's a lovely hack where you can add the same fingerprint multiple times. And unfortunately, you can only add up to 4 fingerprints maximum. I like to add both of my thumbs depending on which hand I'm grabbing my phone and unlocking it. So I'd only add both of my thumbs twice, but you can totally add the same thumb 3 to 4 times. And voila, it works. In one sense, I'm glad the thumb scanner reader is more effective, but in another sense, it feels funny to have a workaround around a $1,300 phone. But hey, if it's more reliable, I'm all down for it. By the way, my Tab S9 Ultra thumb reader is much better than the S24 Ultras, and I think it might have something to do with the new Corning Gorilla Armor Glass on the S24 Ultra. There is another question here though that I've come across in a comment, which is how you can't use the face unlock for unlocking Class 3 security locks, basically for something like banks. However, the fingerprint scanner works just fine, and honestly, in the effort to not get too sucked into Apple's ecosystem, or any ecosystem for that matter, I've always kept my passwords stored by a third party anyways. Okay, so biometrics out of the way, there are a few other little quirks that make the Samsung a wonderful user experience. We all know about the swipe down from anywhere on the home screen, which is lovely, and all Android users have been laughing at iPhone users for quite some time now for not having it. But it's real. The fact that I have to stretch my thumb every time to the top right corner of my iPhone to access settings gets old really quick, or even to see notifications that I have to swipe down from the top. And it's now even more annoying that I'm carrying both phones around. There's also a really pleasant vertical to horizon button toggle that Samsung users have been spoiled by. It's undoubtedly nicer to switch to horizon mode when you're watching something on your phone, or maybe you want to keep your phone in vertical mode when you're laying down on your side or holding the phone above you, when you're laying down of course. The beautiful thing that Samsung does is it gives you that friendly little toggle switch to give you the option to actually switch orientation when you want it, not automatically forcing you to switch. I'm so used to having to turn off the orientation lock when I don't want it, just to have to turn it back on when I do. For some reason, this little button has made viewing on the S24 Ultra really pleasant. I've mentioned this in my last video, but the S Pen feels so nice. It's not even the fact that it's integrated perfectly into the body, but more the actual feeling that you get from the tip of the pen against the glass. It makes you want to use it. And most of the time, I just grab it to scroll around. You see, the Apple Pencil can't actually do half of the functions that your finger can do. For instance, you can't swipe up from the bottom of the screen to get to the home screen, nor can you bring down the settings menu. It's absolutely ridiculous. The S Pen immediately becomes an extension of your hand, and it feels better to just scroll around with the S Pen than your finger. You almost feel like a conductor, or it can also feel like having a precision pointer, and having that option feels extremely thoughtful, a touch that Samsung clearly didn't have to do. Now, one gripe I have with the Samsung is its cloud storage. Apple only gives you 5 GB of free storage for backups and pictures, which is basically a trap, but the ability to keep all of your documents, including your photos and videos, all in one place is powerful. There's literally no other company that offers a robust file storage system that is so intricately tied to hardware and operating systems like iCloud. For instance, with Samsung, you're immediately prompted to create a Samsung account for backups, which I was excited to dive into, only to be told to log into my Microsoft OneDrive account to back up the photos and videos separately. Now, I'm okay with that, but then when I also connect my Google account, the file app quickly becomes a free-for-all with different cloud services, one for backup and syncing across different devices, the other for photos, and third simply because everyone has a Gmail account. Again, it's an annoying quirk, but not really a deal breaker. Oddly, I have never used the AI functions since I got the phone back. And maybe it's because I'm a millennial and to incorporate new software into my life feels more like a chore than help. But honestly, I haven't needed to use the translation services yet, which I probably will if I were to travel, nor do I actively take a lot of pictures I feel like I need to edit. But it definitely feels like Samsung's marketing team jumped on the AI wave and really advertised the heck out of it when it perhaps is used by less than half of S24 Ultra buyers. The biggest question that has been on the back of my mind is, what will it take for an iPhone user to completely switch to a Samsung? And the answer to that is for actually a completely different video. But as a standalone phone, Samsung has pulled off a masterpiece, one that is extremely thoughtful, almost too much so. So the question still remains, is the S24 Ultra worth it? The answer really comes down to 3 factors for me. The screen is clearly superior than Apple, which makes me grab for my Samsung more than my iPhone. And second is the confidence and longevity that the S24 Ultra exudes. There's so much more to a phone than a really good screen and a really powerful chip. The Samsung UI is thoughtful and it works, and it makes you feel like you aren't sacrificing too much anything against your iPhone peers, except for maybe some blue bubbles. Lastly, the ecosystem, which is something that I'm still testing, is the most important factor for me. Integrating software into our lives is becoming more and more helpful, useful, and in some cases mandatory, especially when considering how messy life can get. But so far, as a standalone phone, the S24 Ultra is a powerhouse, a faithful companion that will continue to be updated long enough to become a pass-me-down to a parent or maybe a sibling. With that said, I've been enjoying the S24 Ultra, and I know if you've gotten your hands on one over the last month, you have as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.